I was getting ready for today. Mindfulness is obviously a hot topic. It seems to be really proliferating. I got an email today from a publication. It said 5 ways mindfulness helps you age better. So I wish I'd known about that a few years ago. Because I would have practiced more heartily, I guess. I wanted to start with a riddle. So the riddle is, hi, Chris. Come
Sign
on,
on in and then get some of those, little card
get a card and something to write with, please.
and we're recording.
I wanted to start with a riddle, as I do with kids sometimes. So here's the riddle. What's at least as old as human history, yet also begins anew each moment, is absolutely free, yet can enrich your life immeasurably? Here's my clue. It's something you can practice every day for years and yet still remain a beginner if you do it right. Any thoughts on that?
Happiness?
Happiness, that's a good one. I did this with the students. Some of the things I'm going to do today, because I try and approach mindfulness with a childlike spirit. And some of the things I'm going to do today are the same things I do with students. And I think that's a really helpful way to approach mindfulness, is with that sometimes called beginner's mind. So one more time, what's at least as, you can't fail this test, but what is at least as old as human history, yet also begins anew each moment, is absolutely free, yet can enrich your life immeasurably?
Time, breathing,
Meditation.
laughter.
Those are all totally in the district, okay? It's awareness, right? Awareness in practicing mindfulness, we're learning to improve our awareness. We're learning to expand our awareness. We're learning to savor our awareness, right? I do a practice with the students where we do mindful chocolate. I hope none of your kids are allergic to chocolate. I always check, but and they become aware of how quickly we go through life and how quickly we gobble up experience, missing what philosopher Thoreau called the bloom of the present moment. Every moment something possible if we can show up for it. Next slide, please. By the way, I usually over-prepare for these. And Mr. Ruiz made me, he said, "You're not writing War and Peace, Jacob." And so I cut it down. And then last night, as I was looking at this, I thought, I have nothing to say. We're just going to sit here for an hour and do a mindfulness practice. So that would be quite interesting. Anyways, again, I brought this slide, I brought this image for us to contemplate at the beginning, so that we can approach mindfulness today. We are going to be doing some practices with that beginner's mind. And I also, as I said, I want to share with you a bit of how I present mindfulness to our students, right? Because I go into the classrooms, and especially with 6th and 7th grade, I will see students for 7 consecutive times for about 20 minutes. And it's quite remarkable. If I ask a class of 30 students, how many of you have been stressed out in the last week? Guess how many percent of hands go up? What would be your guess? 80, 90, sometimes virtually every student. But then when we ask, well, what tools do you have to lower your stress? A lot of times it's minimal, right? So we're really at one level just trying to provide tools so that they can think better, so that they can see more clearly, so that they can be less reactive moment to moment. So you can go to the next slide. Anyways, I like that little guy. I think, go back for a second, please. I think he just invites us to approach mindfulness in that childlike way. All right, next slide. Ready to do a mindfulness practice? Give it a try. Okay, so you can't do any of this stuff wrong. So I'm just going to encourage you to relax for a bit. As I say to the students, please sit up straight, sit up tall in your chair and relax. And relax. So here's what usually happens with students when I say sit up tall and relax, is a minute later, go back down. And there is a correlation between our posture and our attention. So all I'm gonna ask you to do for a moment is to just bring your attention, we're bringing forward the idea that we can pay attention on purpose, right? So I'm gonna ask you to bring your attention to this sound. Maybe close your eyes as you listen to it, just so that your hearing sense maybe is more acute. Raise your hand when you hear it completely stop. Isn't that perfect?
Stopped.
That is the world we live in.
Oh, yeah.
And so please take a note card and welcome and a packet there. That's our nervous system. right?
Thank you.
Always something. Let's try it again.
Hello?
Hello? Pay attention on purpose. What a thing to be able to do. Here it's. I usually walk around the room and try to put across the idea to our students that there's always more going on than we realize, right? We're aware of more than we're aware of as well. So for the last time, would you be up for a couple of minutes of just silence? And all we're going to do is pay attention to our breathing for 2 minutes, okay? I'm sure many of you have already done this, but here's the thing with mindfulness, as it said in the riddle, it's always new, right? If we can bring ourselves to it with a new, fresh outlook. Good morning, Mr. Reese. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna ring the bell. I'm gonna invite you to relax. You don't have to close your eyes. You can just gaze downward if you want. And there, for a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, we're going to just pay attention to our breathing. And I'll ring the bell again at the end.
I can't hear none. It keeps freezing.
I don't think that's what my tarding is.
Oh, okay.
Okay, anybody care to share what that was like, just stopping for 2 minutes? 2 minutes is an extended meditation with kids. That's a meditation retreat. I mean, so when they can experience a couple of moments, I say to them, silence is not empty, it's full of answers, right? What we're doing, just like in the picture, is we're trying to nourish, cultivate, develop that ability to start to tune in, to pay attention to what's going on inside them. Just as they're aware of what's going on outside them, we're opening up another aspect of their awareness, right? So that they don't walk through the day, for example, full of contradiction or full of stress or full of unsettled emotion, and then it just pops out, right? I often say to students that if they could just remember some of the tools that we give them, that student that's sitting outside of Mr. Solis's office, our vice principal of discipline, might have made a different decision. It's not to guilt trip them, it's just to say we have that freedom, right? And part of what mindfulness does is it buys us that little cognitive space to go from here, where we're making poor decisions, to here. Make sense? Any questions so far? I'm trying to just put out some mindsets at first. We can go to the next slide. Please, Michael.
Dr. Sheffield, what did you say? That mindfulness buys us cognitive time?
Like it just widens the space. There's a quote from Viktor Frankl, which says, between the stimulus and the response, life is always throwing stuff at us. True. Between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. And in that space is our freedom. Right? So in a way, all of these practices are just to widen that space so that we can make wiser choices. And implicit in that is the idea that inside us is the wisdom to make these good decisions, if you can learn to listen to that. Okay, so here's just some basic definitions for us to just lay out first. Pay attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. Sometimes to students I add Dr. Kabat-Zinn's, he sometimes says, pay attention on purpose in the present moment as if your life depends on it, right? And then we talk about how there are many occupations in the world where a person's life does depend on them paying attention, right? A brain surgeon or someone in the military. So it's just trying to seed the idea that attention can be expanded, it can be developed. Pay attention moment to moment with kindness and curiosity, and then decide how to act. So there it's adding another dimension, which is deciding how to act. You get to decide how to act when you have that composure inside yourself, right? Mostly we spend a lot of times, speaking for myself and for maybe for some of you as well, we spend a lot of time reacting to life, right? We don't have that little bit of space where we can sit back and say, if I do this, what is this going to cause? If I do this, what is this going to cause? And just proceed more mindfully. Mindfulness comprises 3 core elements: intention, attention, and attitude. So intention is, why are we doing what we're doing? Why are you here today? Why are we learning, right? Why is that student at school? I'll sometimes ask students, and maybe you do as well, why are you here today? Why are you going to school? And the more they can articulate that motive in a way that's more comprehensive, the stronger their motivation is as well, right? So They say that 47% of the time our mind wanders. So since you've been sitting here, your mind's probably wandered all sorts of places. Mine has as well. So it's not to pathologize that, it's just say that's part of consciousness, that's part of human awareness. So in mindfulness, we're training ourselves to bring our attention back to the moment, to right now. In a relaxed way, not in a way that it becomes another burden to have to do. Attending fully to the present moment, as I said before. You know, there's a sign in Las Vegas that says you have to be present to win. So how can we be present moment to moment? Okay, that's what we're going to talk about today as well. Okay, we can move to the next slide, please. Really quickly, I asked myself a few years ago, what is this mindfulness thing? And I came up with these 7 mindsets. I'm just going to read them. Being is as important as doing. Friday, we'll have an assembly outside for that we do once every quarter. And what we'll be recognizing in students is not solely their academics, but their character growth, right? Being is as important as doing. Attention can be trained and deepened. Stress can be effectively decreased. We can learn to better navigate and understand difficult emotions. Again, when we have more space inside ourselves, when we're less reactive, the storms of negative emotions or challenging emotions, they can come to us and we have more steadiness inside ourselves, more equanimity to be able to feel those, right? Mindful qualities can be developed. And here we're talking about qualities such as kindness, perseverance, grit, patience. Those are character traits that the more we focus on them, the more we look around us in our environment, at our colleagues, see them as examples of it, we take in the inspiration of that quality and it strengthens in us. But again, the more we are aware moment to moment, the more we see it, right? I come to work every day. I get inspired by my colleagues. I see their, Ms. Poseidon's enthusiasm, Mr. Walton's, incredible organization. Mr. Ruiz, like steady as a rock. I see those and that feeds my character. But again, it's my practice of mindfulness is what allows me to be present for that a little bit more, maybe just a little bit more. Self-compassion is an optimal success strategy. So if I say those words self-compassion, what do they ring in you? What does that mean to you?
Self-love, taking care of yourself, wellness.
Forgive yourself for making mistakes. Maybe.
Right. Anyone here ever made a mistake as a parent?
When? About 15 minutes this morning.
They call them mistakes, right? It's like, oh, can I have a second take on that, right? But I'm sure you've discovered the more we can track our own foibles, you might say, our own folly, and how can I say it? The more we address them in front of our kids, right? The more we're role modeling, hey, you make mistakes, right? They say, and I'll go into this in a bit, about in self-compassion research, about 80% of people are hard on themselves when they're having difficulty or beat themselves up, right? Does anybody, never mind. So it's a habit and it gets cultivated in our kids too, right? There's nothing like a parent saying, stop being so impatient. I mean, it just, they're downloading our attitude, right? Mindfulness can become a moment-to-moment and lifelong tool for positive living. So that was just me stepping back and saying, what, after all, I've been learning beside the students for a good 10 years doing mindfulness, my own practice. What does it come down to? And I thought those 7 really said it well. But you've listened to me babble for a bit. Now I want to bring in some elementary school students because my contention is that mindfulness is so simple that elementary school students could teach it to us. So are you open to having a visit? For about 3.5. I know I sound like Mr. Rogers. Next slide. All right. So as they say, check this out and really think it has a lot to say.
With the Yamaha digital brake, $150 off. Or let them practice anywhere with compact Casio keys.
Brother hits me a lot. I don't like it when you say you don't want to play with me. When I'm mad, my brain can get a headache and it can start hurting. Your blood keeps pumping because you're like really mad. And you start to get sweaty because you're getting really, really mad. And then when you start getting really mad, you turn red. When your body can't really control yourself, mad just takes over your body. I just get out of control. It's kind of like if you have a jar and then the jar would be a rain and then you put glitter in the jar and that would be how you would feel. If you shook up the jar and the glitter went everywhere, that would be how your mind looks. And it's like spinning around and then you don't have any time to think. And you sometimes punch stuff and people when you don't really mean it. When I get angry, I feel it in my heart. I really don't like when I get angry. The amygdala really reacts, but
Little
the
brain lesson.
cortex tries to keep it down. When I feel like I want to, get really angry and yell, I just like to, take deep breath. Like first, you find a place where you can be alone. Then you find some way to relax and calm down. When I need to calm down, I take deep breaths. I breathe in through my nose. Sometimes I close my eyes or just take deep breaths. It's like it's calming down, it's like not like moving. It's like slowing down and then it stops. And the heart pumps slow and then it goes into your brain. Like all the sparkles are at the bottom of your brain. My brain like slows down and then like I feel more calm and then I'm like ready to speak to that person.
Keep it on for a moment. There's just the last image that I think is priceless. Please.
Personally, someone to the room.
There's the lady who does these videos, Julie Bayer Salzman, there's another one. I don't
23rd of November
I don't think we'll-
2023.
I don't think we'll have time for it today, but there's another one on middle school. So I can send that out if people have left their email. So what's the central task in mindful parenting? Well, how about the idea? Well, let me tell you a brief story. Years ago, I worked at the district office where I would see students and their parents who the student had gotten into some trouble and they were coming for a meeting with a counselor. And we had an interview protocol where we always asked this one question, which was to the child, which was, what's your dream for your life? And it was an unusual question, and they always had almost always had some really thoughtful answers. And the parent was oftentimes really observant, just what is the dream for my child? And then we would turn to the parent and say, well, what is your dream for yourself? And so often, the first response was as follows. Those parents were so caught up, and understandably so, in the difficulties and challenges their children were facing, that it was as if to some degree they had moved a little bit away from their own lives and from the pursuit of their own development. So the first step in mindful parenting, as I see it, is what are we doing as individuals to inspire our kids? Right? When they look at us, the person that trained me at that time said, Jacob, if they look at us and they see that we're miserable and uninspired, they're going to think, well, growing up's not really very cool. So it's very easy. I'm a parent too. It's very easy to get caught up in the struggles and even in the seeing what's wrong all the time. So how do we bring ourselves back to our own development journey? Because that's how can we offer something to our kids that we're not actively pursuing ourselves. So I would ask you today, we're not going to have a discussion about it, like how often or how recently have you checked in with your own journey as an individual, right? So that would inspire your kids, right? Including our many mistakes. How do we respond in the face of our falterings? We tell our children, follow your dreams. Do you ever say that to your kids? Follow your dreams. I know maybe it's an outmoded term. I don't know. But I know I said it to a student here one day. And he said, well, Dr. Sheffield, what's your dream? Whoa. I said, I'm actually living it right now. At least in a big part, because I always wanted to work with kids like you. So that was a moment. All right. So it's really good. It's really helpful. Next slide, please. Mr. Walton. Oh. Following along. Okay. In any case, let's do a couple of practices. Again, let me ask, do any of you ever get stressed out as parents? Has that happened in the last month?
Yeah.
So these are just some stress busters that could be useful. The first one's called the sigh. So what's the universal mantra, the universal tone that people make when they've gone through a difficult time? It's just, So now I'm going to ask you to sit up tall in your chair. Don't be mad at me for saying that. I say that to my kids too. Sit up tall in your chair. Yeah. So, and just as an experiment, I'm going to ask you to breathe in through your nose with me. And when you exhale, just let everything drop and just try it again. Your kid is now saying, Mom, what is going on? I'm just taking care of myself. Take a nice deep breath in. All right. You ever get, as the boy said in the video, really, really mad, right? And the heart plumps slowly, he said. Plumps. This one's called Heat the Tension. It's taking the fact, when we get very emotionally activated and charged, that that is already running through our body. We're already secreting stress hormones. We're already having adrenaline pumping in. So you might as well take that energy and maximize it and then release it. So here, I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Think of a recent encounter with your child. We're not going to be sharing. And something that just really got you. And as you're thinking of it, I want you to just clench up more and more tightly. Nobody's watching. It's okay. Clench your face, your feet, your eyes, your mouth, and then just again. So this is the equivalent of an adult timeout, right? You can say to your child, your student, I just need a minute. I'm sure you deploy that technology, right? But go in and do something intentional and purposeful that actually takes that pent up energy and releases it. So it's just, I'm showing you how ridiculous it looks. Right? Okay, more subtly, if you're spun off, you're feeling like something rocked your world, you lost your sense of balance, centeredness, however you want to call it. You can do this simple thing. We have the ability to think of a part of our body and put our awareness there. So if I say to you your left elbow, part of you is aware of your left elbow, right? So if I say to you the soles of your feet, right? And just close your eyes for a moment and just take a nice deep breath in and imagine it's coming up through the soles of your feet. Take 3 of them, in fact. And you can pull it even all the way up to the top of your head. It has the effect of calming you. It's a really good one. Okay, so the last one, you kind of have to be willing to make a fool of yourself, which I'm always up for. But this one I learned from one of my teachers, and he said, Jacob, you can never get too down as long as you can go like this. And he said there's neuroscience behind it, right? That it's actually, right, you're expanding your breathing capacity, but you're also, that sound has an energizing and a lightening effect.
Didn't they have
So-
something to do with laughing too? Something like,
Yeah, yeah.
you start laughing
Right,
and
right.
then you're laughing.
Norman,
and
there's
really laughing.
been books written about
Yeah.
that, people who've had amazing rejuvenation or healing from laughing. So at the count of 3, we're gonna do it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. 2 more times. 1, 2. I want them to hear it out. I want to draw Mrs. Dolan. 1, 2, 3. 1 more time. 1, 2, 3. Will you remind them again that it's being filmed? I just suddenly remembered that. Oh my gosh, I want to work here longer. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. I already did that. Okay.
Next.
Oh, yes, please. Okay, so if nothing else from today, you remember these 3 acronyms, some of which you may have heard. They're in your packet too. They're on the wall. We cannot escape them, right? But these are really, I call them emergency roadside mindfulness, right? This is not the everyday practice that I would encourage of sitting down for 10 to 30 minutes. You can do it just sitting and attending to your breathing. That is one of the best things you can do for your neurobiology, for your mood, for your stress. If you can find a way, if you can carve out even 5 minutes in a day where you just sit and attend to your breathing. If you do that for a year, I can guarantee if we meet again in a year, you'll find that you've had some remarkable changes in terms of your equanimity, your composure, your ability to navigate difficulty. It just works that way. It's very subtle and it aggregates slowly. So, but these are what I call emergency roadside mindfulness, right? Stop just stands for stop. Take some breaths. Observe, that's within and without. What's going on around me? What's going on inside me? I'm activated. I'm triggered. My child is touch that button again. You know, because they're amazingly designed to press our buttons, right? They're, you know, being a parent is like being on a meditation retreat, and the children are the meditation teachers, right? Because they're teaching us moment to moment, for example, patience. I don't know if I have time. I was standing in the bank the other day, and this gentleman was, you know, those coin things they have where you can exchange you put in all your coins. I was standing next to him, and I swear he had like 40,000 coins, right? And every sound was going right into my nerves. And I noticed people around just like getting really, and it was getting very kind of heated in there. He was blithely standing there putting the coins. And I looked at this guy in front of me. He was looking over, like we're all like, and I said, wow, there are so many opportunities to practice patience, aren't they? And he started cracking up. We had like a moment there. I wouldn't have said that or had that thought that transformed that irritating situation if I didn't have a mindfulness practice that allowed me to kind of be there, but not be swallowed by the experience, right? Because life's irritating sometimes. I may be irritating, I don't know. So bold is a step below, step deeper than stop. Right? It stands for breathe, observe, same thing. Breathing's always going to be that incredible tool that we have. And I really mean it when I say, and I'm sure some of you have experienced this, if not all of you, every breath is new. But then it says, listen to your values. Okay? And you could say, well, I always know my values, but they're not always active in us. They're not always running the show. They're not always the lenses that you're wearing, right, through which you're seeing the situation. So breathe, observe, listen to your values, right? Asking yourself in that conflict with your child, what is important to me right now? It's very easy, as a little girl said, the amygdala really reacts, right? When that child, when your child, in a sense, questions your authority or threatens it, it's very easy to get polarized and to get into a situation where all you want to do is win that argument. None of you have ever been there, have you? Right? I've been in that situation with my son. I'm very fortunate, not a lot, but so listen to your values. You're plugging into a source of illumination, a source of insight, right? And then decide how to act. Hi, Mr. Sillies, our wonderful assistant principal. So again, you get to decide how to act. And there again is that Viktor Frankl quote. Between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. Something happens, response. It really should be the stimulus and the reaction, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom, moment to moment. Okay, last is RAIN, which RAIN, which is a little more subtle. It's for those, it can be really helpful in those times when we get super emotional, where we feel engulfed by something that's happened or some reaction that we've had. And it asks us to recognize, okay, this is the state I'm in. Allow, doesn't say accept it. Inquire, what's going on? What's happening? Be interested in our own reactivity. And is nurture. So when we've gotten blown away emotionally, do we nurture ourselves, right? The research shows in self-compassion research that we perform much better when we treat ourselves compassionately in the face of difficulty. A lot of times what we do is we beat up on ourselves. Now we've got a double-decker sandwich. We've got what upset us and we've got our reaction to it, right? And all, what happens too is all our history of being harsh on ourselves comes flooding back as well. It's all there in the hippocampus of our brain. Go, oh, you want more of that? Well, I'm going to give you a whole backlog. So nurture can be something as simple as a gesture, just putting your hand on your heart, right? I ask students, I say, are you a good friend to your friends? And they almost all raise their hands. And then I say, how about yourself? Right? And hands go down. Not all of them, right? But a lot, and sometimes many. So it's a very subtle thing to say all you have to take on board. Well, not all, but a very important component is just that self-nurturing in the face of difficulty, right? Can you grab on something for a second? Just something you can squeeze, right? That's okay, with a pencil, right? Now I want you to squeeze it harder and harder. Right? Squeeze it harder. Now kind of look around the room. Realize that while you're continuing to squeeze it, everything you're looking at is getting filtered, and that could be your child, Mr. Reeves. Everything you're looking at is being filtered through that tension, right? So now relax your grip. Right? So you relax your grip. It's not asking, have you ever said to somebody or had somebody say to you, just let it go? Impatiently a lot of times, let it go, right? Well, a lot of times we can't let it go because it won't let us go, right? So take on board, I would encourage you, this idea of just in pent-up times, relax your grip. That we can always do. Okay, next slide. I don't even know what slide we're on anymore. So we've already covered that. Okay. All right. So does everyone have a card with them? If you're listening, viewers at home, if you can get something to write with and a piece of paper, that would be great. Okay. In your little packet there's a table of character strengths. It's right on the wall there as well, periodic table of character strengths. Just for the sake of time, as Mr. Ruiz warned me of, he told me I'm planning too much. For the sake of time, I want you to put, I invite you to put 3 character traits or qualities that you would like to nurture or develop in your child. Think of, if you have several children, maybe just think of one in particular at this point. So when you think of your child, what are 3 characters, like perseverance is a trait, humility? Right?
Like 3 things that you think that they
That
are.
you'd like to, if you think of your child as like a garden, you're cultivating those qualities, you're trying to inspire those qualities, whether it be bravery or stick-to-itiveness,
Ones that we want them to do or ones they already exhibit.
ones that we champion in them. They could be exhibiting them too,
But they're probably.
yeah.
Because
No, ones.
for example, my daughter's in college, she never calls.
If you-
I've got a couple.
Chris, if you're saying I got something for them, right? All right.
Go on.
Boy,
But if you
Not just
think
when you
that,
need money.
but if you think that, if it's something that you think they already have it, then,
so you still might want to encourage it further.
okay, because I would think maybe I want something else because they don't have that at all.
You got order from whatever part of the menu you want.
Okay.
Ah,
It can only be those words.
I'm sorry.
It can only be these words.
No, those are just a suggestion.
Okay.
Yeah. But really, we're talking about character traits of, because isn't that one of our central tasks as parents? Right, is we're trying to foster those lines of character, inner qualities, you could call it, they're called universal values.
The same list for my husband.
It's getting loaded.
Right here, I was like, oh, they're really alike.
I like Chris's. I'll show him a couple of qualities.
He could probably even tell you which one.
I'll ask him today. So you got that? So those are three jewels that you want to encourage in them. Now I want you to, underneath that, put a fourth quality that you wrestle with, that they give you a hard time with, but wait, write it with your opposite hand. Try not to hate me.
Fourth quality, just a fourth one that we want?
Yeah, but one that you wrestle with, that you don't, you know, it's like, oh, they're always so. No, you got some,
Got it.
write it with your opposite hand.
He gets it from me, of course.
Always. That was fun. So when you're doing the, what was that like doing the, with the opposite hand? Yeah, think about, you have to be more deliberate, and it might be possible even to be impatient with yourself, right? Like, and criticize, like, look at your sloppy writing. I liken that to those times when we are wrestling, maybe not physically, hopefully, but with our students with something that is really challenging for us, right? How do we treat ourselves in the moment that we're wrestling with that? Because are we having a double-decker sandwich? There's not only my kid doing that annoying thing, but there's me being impatient with myself for how I'm handling. So again, relax your grip. That's the idea there. Okay, we can move on. Oh, yeah. And now on the other side, let's see if we can do this. Without thinking too much, write a one or two sentence description, a mission statement for you as a parent. What is your mission as a parent? You don't have to write the ultimate, just one or two sentences. What is your mission as a parent? In a moment, that jangly bell is going to ring. But don't be disturbed. Hi, Miss Stone. Well, I'm forcing them to write.
Oh, good. Part of the Wicker strategies.
Yeah. And you might find that there's a connection between those qualities that you wanted to encourage, foster, develop, and your mission, right, as a parent.
What?
I said you might find there's a connection or correlation between those qualities, you contemplated those, you wrote them down, and your larger mission, your overall mission as a parent. So that was we could have a great discussion about that, but we're coming to the end of our time. In a moment, that wonderful bell is going to ring, which is not this bell, but maybe we can treat it like one. Yeah. Just doesn't have the same resonance, but. I've got a new idea for bells, Miss Stone.
You know, There might be
something,
something to that.
yeah. Okay, so wonderful. We don't have time to do a share on that, so I'm gonna move to the next slide.
Oh, you did the mission statement.
Did the mission statement, like I said, okay, keep moving. Okay, so in summation, what are we talking about? What are the basic steps to mindful parenting? Practice mindfulness. I really encourage you to, if you're not already, how many of you practice mindfulness? You know, if I did this 10 years ago, nothing. So it is really encouraging to me to see that. And so probably a lot of what I said today is a review for you or a way of underscoring it. Commit to your ongoing development. Right? What is the journey, the mission that you are on, as you just wrote down, not just as a parent, but as an individual, right? Apply self-compassion at the point of contact, right? The moment to really utilize, I'll just underscore that, self-compassion is the moment when you are struggling, right? Just be there, like to minister to yourself, to attend to yourself, to care for yourself at the point, and you start developing a habit there. When you first do it, it feels a little awkward, it feels a bit artificial, perhaps even. But the more you do it, it's like a country road that's only had tire tracks, only one trip down it. And then now, the 400th time we get upset with our kids, right? Now that self-compassion habit is coming in more, okay? And last but not least, relax your grip, right? As you're moving through the days. I don't need to tell you this, my son's 25. Your children are in middle school. Blink your eyes 3 times when I say 1, 2, 3. Blink your eyes 3 times. Now they're graduating high school, right? That's how fast it goes, right? So we can skip the next, that's okay. We can skip the next slide and go to finish. I wanted to share a practice that I found really helpful. It's not so much a mainstream practice, but kind of builds on this idea of we are part of what we're doing as parents is transmitting a value system, right? And when we transmit those values, how we are at the point is really important too, because our kids download our attitudes too. Right? They take in the qualities that we're radiating, let's say, just as much as they do our words, if not more. So I got really inspired about 12 years ago, and I started writing books for my son. And these are just everything that I ever wanted to pass on to him, right, in terms of value. And so now, 12 years later, almost 13, there's hundreds of pages here. And it's, like I said, it goes by so fast. It's very much in my awareness that next thing I know, he's going to be reading those books, right? Because I won't be here. That's just the way it is. The picture that, let's go to we got to keep moving on the slide. Yeah. So just a little personal story and a mindfulness story. That's a picture of my son who was delivering this book to me that I was in the middle of when I almost died from COVID. And so I was about 80 days in the hospital then. That's me through the kind of diaphanous screen there. And we couldn't get the window open, so we were talking on the phone to each other. Right. And I hadn't seen him in 80 days. Right. So he was about 21 then. So we had this conversation and I started on the journals. I could barely write, right? But it was such a commitment in me to transmit those values that I was just pleased to have my sloppy writing there. One more slide. So that was the day I came home after 52 days on a ventilator and the whole business. Being up in Joshua Tree rehab. That was like a moment after I finally saw Evan again, right? The reason I'm bringing the story is that the reason I'm bringing the story is that so much of my mindfulness journey was kind of capsulized then, because I remember coming into that house and just being filled with gratitude for my life, but also just there was a period there for a couple of weeks where every breath was like, I just was so grateful to have another breath. And it's not like I was enlightened or anything like that. It's just that I think I got into a normal state of mind where I wasn't taking for granted the most basic things that they're always before us, right? So the happy moment. So last but not least, mindfulness begins each moment, right? There's now and there's now. So when you're wrestling as a parent, give yourself the freedom, give yourself the liberation to just begin again anew, begin again with your next breath. We all can do that. It's very subtle, but it's very powerful. Thank you, everybody. So
One gift you are to our school, and everybody feels the same way. Big up, and to our students and, to our parents and definitely to our staff as well. So thank you for sharing your wisdom with
and
us
thank
today.
you for allowing us to have the care program. It's just, that is the gift. So I hope this was okay for you.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm a nervous mindfulness teacher. But, I try and practice moment to moment. So I get a lot of opportunities to practice. All right, it's great to see you all. Thank you so much. Yeah. If you have any questions, please email me. I'd be happy to talk to you in a more tailored way about applications, working with your students. Anything I can do. Thank you for coming.
Your email here.
Yeah, my email is.
Session workshop, Dr. Stefan.
Thank you.
I'm quite sure if you want me to. I saw it. I did a good job. I went.
Just
It's a box, they're all the box breath.
Oh.
Except this was figure eight, then it does tell you, but you have to do all the physical to, to take your fingers through. Because I figured you can give it to
No,
or something.
no.
I know. I know, Sean, teachers are great with their Christmas cards.
Oh.
Yeah, I figured you'd like them. I think so much